Good morning, Jema. Om. Today's topic is possession. It seems fitting, it's Halloween, so possession. What a topic. So much cultural conditioning and fear around possession. So Halloween, we become possessed. Not just in the sense of some ghost or goblin possessing us, but we can say it's kind of a willful possession. Let's say we put on the costume of Count Dracula. And we pretend to be Dracula that night. We've got the fangs, we've got the blood, we've got the cape. We're kind of inviting that energy into our field and exploring our shadow or dark side, the blood-sucking villain. Actually, in some adaptations, the vampires, the good guys. Or the werewolves or whatever. So Halloween is all about possession, about becoming some other archetype or character, to explore that archetype and to have an evening, a day, sometimes a week. People like to celebrate Halloween, to be possessed. And we think, okay, this possession is just temporary and we're not really being possessed. Like, I still possess my own character, my personality complex. I'm just cohabiting the field with Dracula for the evening. So that's one example of possession. Another example of possession would be like, in the Exorcist, the movie. It's an old movie, but we're literally like possessed by some demonic energy, and we seem to have strength of incredible, much more than our body would justify, incredible strength, and we could be shouting all sorts of violent, weird language, and we seem like we're possessed by some negative entity. So negative possession, in that sense, does happen. In India, there are exorcists. In the Catholic Church, there are exorcists. I don't think these people exist just for fun. There's a demand for them. So this negative possession is, once you start getting into the paranormal, into the occult, a pretty common phenomenon. Possession and reincarnation, also, it's a fine line, because we've all seen the movie about the Dalai Lama, about how the Dalai Lama, when the new Dalai Lama comes in, reincarnated, he's able to pick the instruments, the rattle, the bell, whatever, the mala, of the prior Dalai Lama, and that's how they're able to know that this is the Dalai Lama reincarnated. Plus can be certain birthmarks or telltale signs. So that's sort of, it's a reincarnation, but it's also a possession in a more wider sense, because the old Dalai Lama has possessed the body of the new Dalai Lama. So there's a continuity there. So reincarnation and possession, that's kind of a fine line as well, what people really mean by that. And then there's societal possession. So we don't think about it in this terms often, but I think if you'll bear with me for a moment, you'll see what I'm saying, which is we can be possessed by the need to own a home. So the government might stimulate home ownership with certain mortgage breaks and other things. All your friends say how important it is to own a home, and it's safety nest for the future, an investment for the future. The society has an interest in creating stability and a family unit, and having a big mortgage does that. So people can be possessed by the idea that you need to own a home. But if you think about it, what is this idea that you need to own property? In many societies, there is no property ownership. And when we first came on this earth, in these bodies and in this beautiful paradise, where was there ownership of land? I don't think so. So this is an idea. The movie Inception played with this a lot. It was a great movie if you haven't seen it, which is the idea was you could implant an idea in the other, and the other would think that it was his own idea. So that was Inception. And that's what Leonardo DiCaprio and his team were doing. So, but this happens all the time. You don't have the idea of home ownership, you don't know anything about property, you don't care. And then one day you get the bug and you're taking all the property classes and you're investing, and property becomes your obsession. Whether it could become your business, could become an empire, you could become a real estate mogul. So just obsessed by property. And people are obsessed by many things in this culture, material things. They're obsessed with food. People call themselves foodies. We used to, if you really have a strong possession with food, you could be a glutton, literally eating yourself to death. Yeah, it's a possession by the idea of food, or the feeling you get from food. People are possessed by sex. Yes, of course. It's sex everywhere, every advertisement, books, movies, TV. It's sex sells, so sex is everywhere. Sex is used to sell, and people can be possessed by sex, possessed by the opposite gender, the idea of women or the idea of men. Just it's on their brain 24/7. We can say this kind of possession is widespread. Possessed by, in wartime, like World War I, if you read the stories, like the whole nation is in a fervor to go to war. That's a kind of possession as well. When people commit unspeakable atrocities, one cannot help but speculate that those people are also possessed. What's happened to their humanity? What's happened to their compassion? What's happened to their hearts? Is there something else at work there, some kind of possession, either by an idea or by some kind of negative entity? So that's a little trip down possession, which will just show you how widespread possession is. Very widespread. Almost you can say nationhood is almost like a possession. Whether you're American or French or Italian, it's like this character, this archetype has possessed you. But you're not an American. You're not an Italian. You're not a French person. You're you. And your nationality is just a happenstance to where you were born. So people are possessed by their football teams, their soccer teams. It's their whole identity. So we can say that anything that takes over your identity or distances you from the freedom that you've always been and always will be and always are, and you take on a character of some kind, whether it's Count Dracula at Halloween, or incredible fanatic of your football team, or super patriotic American, whatever it is, you can say that that person is possessed by an idea, possessed by an energy, possessed by an archetype. People who are possessed by alcohol become alcoholics, possessed by drugs become drug addicts, possessed by sex become sex addicts. So addiction, which is super widespread, is also, we can say, a possession. The drug has possessed you. The alcohol has possessed you. So that's by way of background to talk about that possession, and I see that as not having your free will. So anything that grabs hold of you, you can't control, and is not part of your freedom to move. Even vegan can be a possession. I've seen many vegans whose health deteriorate because they're so attached to this idea of veganism, for very altruistic and health-oriented purposes, but nevertheless, physically, they're deteriorating rapidly. It may be that their body's not quite ready to adapt this lifestyle yet, if it ever will be. You know, we have millions of years of DNA in our blood that might have been meat eating. It might take several generations to change or not. But you can see that people are possessed with an idea like veganism, and it can lead to unhealthy results. So this is all in the way of talking about divine possession. So if we can say, like, we don't want to be possessed by anything external to us, we don't want to be possessed by Madison Avenue, we don't want to be possessed by the new car, the new house, we don't want to be suckered in by the home ownership, like all these ideas that are out there to grab hold of us and dictate our lives. We want to be free, spacious, free, free to act spontaneously without encumbrances, without belief systems that impinge or constrict our relationship to freedom. We would like to be the eternal free being that we are in our, we can say, higher self or soul or big self, S. So anything that restricts the movement of self to a certain degree is should be cast suspicion on as some kind of possession. So ideas, belief systems, patterns, habits, they're all kind of a possession. Like I read my Sunday paper every Sunday, I have my double espresso every day for 50 years. I'm kind of possessed by this ritual. What if I skip a Sunday? What will happen? Who cares about this paper or this coffee? I mean, really. So in Deity Yoga, in this path, the path of Kali Yoga, we're interested in divine possession. So it's a very interesting twist. So we can say that we're unconsciously possessed by many programs and beliefs and patterns and ideologies. Milk does a body good. 3 square meals a day. I mean, it's endless. So we can say that we would like to dissolve these possessions. Anything that's inhibiting that flow of spontaneity, that spark of divinity within us, we work on dissolving. We work it through the spiritual path, through Shaktipat, and through surrendering to Ma. So that gets to our next point, which is divine possession. So in this path, actually, we're calling upon benevolent grace to possess us. Why would we want such a thing? I was just talking about the freedom of movement and spontaneity and being a free being. Because actually, as long as you're in your personality complex, you're possessed. Yep. I want to let that sink in for a second. It might be a bitter pill to swallow. You've created a character, let's say like a Super Mario Brothers character or an avatar in a video game, and you think you're this character. So the character is you. You don't know the difference between you, your eternal self, your free self, and the character that you're projecting out into the world, like a Super Mario Brothers or an avatar in a computer game. You've mistaken yourself for the projection into the reality, and everyone is possessed by their ego, by their personality complex, by this character that we think we are. That's not you. So how do we disidentify with the personality complex and dissolve all these other possession programs going on? With the help of Shakti, Kundalini, Kali, the great goddess, Shiva, Krishna, the deities. They're the agent, especially in this path, Shaktipat, I'm speaking from my experience, which can dissolve the adherence, the stickiness of these programs, beliefs, subsystems, archetypes, deep subconscious programs, and your over-identification with the character you project into the world, your ego. It's not that we want to dissolve or destroy the ego. Actually, in my experience, the ego will just fight that back. It's very smart. We just don't want it in the driver's seat. Maybe it will dissolve, maybe it not. There's no need to get it on its guard. But we would like to disidentify or dissolve the super strong pull of these belief systems, programs, and the personality complex. And the agent that can do that is Shakti, Kundalini. Once Kundalini wakes up, it starts working on these beliefs, patterns, subsystem, archetypes. We say samskara and vritti in Sanskrit. These vasana is another word. They're all kind of associated with these patterns and beliefs and systems and subsystems and ideologies and from past lives and this life. So the Kundalini, because the Kundalini is interested in you becoming the free self you are underneath all this obscurity, all these distortions, starts working on dissolving these things, including your over-identification with the personality complex. And in my experience, the ultimate, efficient, loving, beautiful, strong agent of this revolution is Kali. Kali. Kali, in my experience, is the one who can most efficiently, ruthlessly, but with love, yes, both, dissolve these distortions in our system so we can recognize ourselves as love. So in this path, actually, we're encouraging what colloquially might be termed divine possession. So we would like Kali to possess us. We would like Kundalini Shakti to possess us. Why would we want that? Because she will help bring us to the spacious freedom that underlies everything. It's in her nature to get the fire started, get the revolution started. Really, 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 really subconsciously everything. It's like defrag. Remember, I don't know if anyone uses MS-DOS still or Windows, but it's like they used to clean the hard drive and whatever by defrag in the background. That's what it's like. Kali is defragging in the background all the time when you're sleeping, when you're waking, when you're doing other stuff. It's constantly working to free up you, the big sense, self, from all these programs. We can say we're like Gulliver. Gulliver in Gulliver's Travels was tied down by all these Lilliputians, these midgets with ropes and everything, and he was a bound giant. So that's a very apt metaphor for what we're going through. And the Shakti, Kali in particular, is dissolving all these bonds and ropes that are keeping Gulliver pinned down so he can recognize the all that he is, the giant that he is. So we're inviting and we're open to and receptive of Kali coming into our fields. So we don't want our ego and our personality complex driving things. That's what's causing the problem. The way to solve that is not more ego, more beliefs, more patterns, more exercises. No, we invite Kundalini to come into our system. We are open and receptive of this beneficial divine energy to revolutionize ourselves so we can become all that we were meant to be. We can become the divinity that we are. So you might say, like, what about the possession element? Like giving away my power. That's something they say in New Age vernacular. But actually, it's not your power. Because the you think it's your power, doesn't exist. That's just the avatar, the Super Mario Brothers character. So there's just power and love and grace and bliss. And it's not yours. It cannot be possessed. There's an interesting play on possession, no? So we're inviting this force. It seems like, wait a minute, what about my power? So in that sense, actually we're not giving away our power, because this force, Kali, Shakti, Kundalini, is us. Divinity, it's one. You've heard oneness? So we are Shakti, and Shakti is us. We are Shiva too, and Krishna, and many other things, and beyond. But itself coming back to wake self up, itself helping self dissolve the programs, dissolve the belief systems, dissolve the over-identification with the personality complex. So to that we say, yes, please, come. And it's exactly like that. There seems to be a force working within you, like the movie Star Wars, a lot of cultural references today. So, trust the force. Be the force. Exactly. The force is you and you are the force. The force and you are one. Om. Jai Ma.